Our parsha seems to begin the non sequitur. Right after two parashas, one dealing with the Klei HaMikdash, the vessels of the Mishkan, one dealing with the Big Day Kahuna, suddenly we're discussing the Machatzis HaShekel. It seems to be changing directions, and then we come back to the Kior, the description of one of the Kalim of the Mishkan that was used for preparing for the Avodah in the Mishkan. Why now? Why after the details of all the other Kalim, or do we suddenly include the Kior? And the second difficulty is the placement of the Kior itself. The Kior was used by the Kohanim to wash their hands and their feet before they would do Avodah, and yet the Torah tells us that it was placed Bein HaUlom uvein HaMizbeach, Bein Olam Moed uvein HaMizbeach, between the Olam Moed and between the Mizbeach, which meant you have to walk past the Mizbeach, then wash the Kior, and then come back. If you need it beforehand, why would it be placed over there? So the Sforno explains that the Kior was listed separately from the other Kalim because it was different. It wasn't used as part of the Avodah, it was used in preparation for the Avodah. And let's try and understand, what does that mean? What does that tell us? Torah tells us in Parshat Vayakel that the Kior was made of the Maros Hatzovos. It was donated by the women from their mirrors. And Moshe at first, Chazal tells, was reluctant to take something of vanity, something that was used to adorn themselves, and use that in the Mishkan. It seemed incongruous with the spirituality of the Mishkan. And yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that it's the most precious of everything. The most precious gift. It was used by the women in Mitzrayim to make themselves attractive to their husbands who were in despair over their plight of the Jews. They used it for the holy purposes of perpetuating the Jewish people, the continuity of Klal Yisrael, and it certainly is most welcome in the Mishkan. And this, in fact, is one of the goals of the Mishkan. We have to be mekadesh the chol, infuse kedusha into what otherwise seems to be mundane. And that seems to be that before they start the avodah, what the role of the kior is to stop and to pause and prepare. Prepare yourselves. That's what the Sforno meant. You have to separate yourselves to be mekadesh the chol. Look at those maros hatzovos. And then you remember, wow, I'm coming into the Mikdash, I'm coming to do Avodah. Now I'm coming to elevate that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us in this world and to use it as part of our Avodah in the Mishkan. And I think the importance is further highlighted by the placement of the Kior in the Mishkan. And it's not immediately upon entering, but you have to go past the Mizbeach. Why not? I think the idea is to remind yourselves that if you want to prepare, and that's what the Kior is about, don't think you can just walk right into the Mishkan and be ready. You have to take it all in. You have to be prepared. It takes a little bit of time. It's not poof, I've been part of my mundane life, and now I'm going to come into Kedusha. In order for that transition to happen, it takes a few moments. And you have to think, what is the goal? And you see the Mizbeach. Wow, the goal is Avodas Hashem, to be Mekari of ourselves, to bring ourselves closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then you proceed to wash and make that transition from the Chol to the Kodesh. The Nashim Tzidkanios, the righteous women in Mitzrayim, did exactly that. They knew how to see ahead. They saw the future of Klal Yisrael. Something needed to be done, and they took it into their own hands. That was their awareness of the Kedusha of the Jewish people. And to take a tool that can be used by the Yetzer Hara for vanity, their mirrors, and they elevated it. And it became an indispensable part of the Mishkan. And preparation is the key to any pursuit in life of value, and certainly in the realms of spiritual. As Ben Franklin once said, by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. In Tefillah, we have halach of Hikom Nikras Nogecha, prepare yourself. Similarly for Shabbos, somehow whatever time Shabbos is, it's always a rush at the end. Why? Because the Yetzer Hara knows that if we go in prepared to Shabbos, it's going to be a different type of Shabbos. And therefore the Yetzer Hara tries to distract us from that preparation. Part of the preparation is to be aware of potential pitfalls that we might face and to overcome them, to have a game plan of how we're going to bring ourselves closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the lesson of the women in Mitzrayim. They were sensitive to the future of Klal Yisrael, and they was therefore incorporated into the Mishkan. And that's the lesson of always looking forward. And that's the understanding of both questions. The Kior was separate from all of the other Kalim, because it had a different role. It was about the preparation. It was about walking into the Mishkan, understanding what is my goal, where do I want to get to, and then engaging it. And hopefully that lesson of the Kior reminds us that every time we look into the mirror, anytime we involve ourselves in any pursuit, we set our goals and we prepare ourselves in every aspect of our lives, in tefillah, in Shabbos, in anything else, and that if we set our lives and try our sights on lofty goals, then hopefully HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help us achieve them.